Call the meeting to order. If you join us in the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I just make one thing? We had the facilities meeting, and we have an RFP for the roof, and we thought we'd ask Mr. Adams if he could hang around for a few minutes. If no one has any objection, could we maybe just take a look at that? Yeah, you should have your RFPs, correct, on the roof, in your package.
No, they
Grabbed you.
that would have only gone to the facility subcommittee.
Yeah, we didn't
A copy of the
get
RFP. So
Sorry.
I can share mine for a minute.
I can share mine for a minute also.
Oh, okay, shoot.
Oops.
So the recommendation from the committee was to the full board to post the RFP for the roofing project.
Thank you for moving that along for us.
You're welcome.
Here's mine, if you'd like to take a look at it, I would appreciate receiving that back. This is what they're proposing. I did grab you.
Can I just get a copy of this sent to you?
Sure.
That would be great. Do you want to look at that now?
Bob has, I don't know if Norma
Norma,
would
do
like
you
to
wanna-
take a look at
Or
that.
just
but
have one sent to you?
That's the proposal for the first year, the yellow pieces. RO, ST, and TQ are gonna be stripped. And then YN,
Does not have to be stripped.
does not have to be stripped, correct. There was some discussion about moving up the plan to possibly doing the first and second year now, but with the money from the Warren article, that's only going to leave us with 113,000, and the estimate is for 110, which really wouldn't leave us a lot of money left over if we had another issue in another area. So,
We wouldn't recommend that probably.
yeah, I don't know.
Well, what's in the best interest of the building?
Well, it's already projected as to do it not this year, but next year. So that's already been factored into it. Like I said, there was a discussion from a certain member on the committee about speeding it up and doing first and second year this year, but that's only gonna leave us $3,000, which isn't really a lot of money if we have another issue anywhere else in the building until it comes up in that respective year. So I would probably think it might be in our best interest to just stick with the plan.
When is this done?
All of it,
I'm asking when all the black is done, because it says done, and just wanted to know the
believe-
date.
this was last year, and that was the year, but AA was the year before.
2012.
Correct, Bob.
The flat roof was from 2010 and then 2012 for the slope parts.
Correct. Anybody,
So what, have you figured out the amount of money that we're gonna have to ask the taxpayers for?
It's already there.
It's already there. You got.
This month, but it's only, well, no, on for the next, to make the 5-year contract, to do the 5 phases, what's the total that we'll have to ask them for?
Yep. This is
Yeah, she's
the
got
yellow,
that.
then next phase. So those are the,
But if we've got 113,
We have enough to do 2 years' worth.
Right, and so that will give you you've got,
but you don't wanna leave it at 3? Is that what you're saying? So you wanna do that and have
No,
70 left over?
in other words, with the money, with the warrant article that got passed in March,
Mm-hmm,
we're gonna have 113,000. Phase 1 and phase 2 is 110.
mm-hmm.
So that would only leave us $3,000.
What's the balance in the fund?
66 now, which is enough to do the first phase.
66,
So with the,
correct.
at the end of this budget season, there's gonna be another 37
Mhm.
going into it.
Right.
Which gave me an idea, and I think because it was just a dumb idea, really.
Andrew,
The plan for the roof was, we started at about this is the third year, to put $37,000 over a 10-year period, to put $370,000, that's what was estimated at the time to replace all the roofs in the school. And that's how it was presented to the taxpayers, that it'd be a 10-year project.
Mm-hmm.
So this will be the third year that we're putting, in July of 2014, will be the third year that we put the $37,000 into it.
So based on the preliminary estimate, looks like it's $238,000 to finish off the remainder of the roof. That's phase 1 at 60,000, phase 2 at 50,000, 3 at 40,
so if we don't
4
do
at 50, and 5
the
at 38.
both phases, which really, only leaving 3,000, probably not a great idea, that's still gonna leave you, 43,000, and then if we put another 37, so we'll have, enough to do that year, and so it should work out that the 37.
Well, we might actually have enough left over this year, so that next year we could do phase 2 and phase 3 maybe, possibly.
If,
And still have money
Right,
left
right,
over.
right.
That might be
Right.
a way to look at that too.
Right, but that's next year. This
Mhm.
year, I think,
Yep,
I'm thinking only $3,000 left over is probably
might not save us in a
may not be a great idea.
Phase 1 is the priority.
it's my idea, it would be a good idea.
All right, anybody have any questions for Bob, or? Does anybody wanna, make a motion to, send out the RFP?
I'll make a motion to post this RFP, and specifically in the Carroll County Independent and Foster's, and also the Wakefield Bulletin Board, and numerous other sites in town, I guess. We'll leave it at
There was also discussion about, trying to get a minimum of 3 competitive bids as per the policy.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the rest of you, do you think, the Carroll County Independent and Foster's would be sufficient to put that RFP in?
I would assume so. We have a good number of roofers right in the area, and we already have one company that I'm sure will bid.
Yeah, and I'm also gonna reach out, to the 3 certified companies that are LOA certified.
Yep.
Which is part of the proposal,
Sure.
the LOA system. All right, so,
my motion's gonna die without a second.
I'll
well,
second
that's,
that. I'll second that.
I worry
I
about
just
that.
wanted them to understand it before I seconded it.
well,
She seconded it.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Bob. Norma, could I have my,
Oh, that's what, Steve,
what?
Are you running this show, or is Bonnie running this show?
You
I forget to
relieve
bring,
Mr. Adams
I
of-
forget to bring my gavel back. I got my hammer out now.
Anything else, Mr. Bug? Thank you very much.
I like the chair. Running the show. I didn't even try it out.
Gotta consider this a loss.
Not the source.
Time Warner,
That's for your internet service.
1 month for $556.
That's for the increased speed of the internet.
1 month?
Yeah.
Wasn't it supposed to be $295 a month?
That's what the invoice.
But wasn't it from before, wasn't it? When we first looked into that, wasn't that supposed to? Why is, yeah. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Time Warner, I thought the increased speed was gonna be $295 a month.
Well, we also switched our phone service to Time Warner, so it's more than just the internet.
Okay.
Okay, so you got $209 for the phone and
About while we were-
$250 for the internet.
Doing the contract with
phone,
Comeau,
Joe.
we did some
Okay?
Andrew,
discussion about
is this
school.
Arizona still?
We need to know
I'm sorry, is that it?
Mystic Hotel and Spa?
Yeah, I do that when I went to Phoenix. Make sure.
Yes, on the cable commission too. I used to,
I'm thinking
Till
about
they
this
disbanded it
again,
because, I mean,
we'll just find out.
ask questions. That's what happened.
Yeah, 'cause of that, we already-
Groton? When did you go to Groton?
Oh, yeah, this was down in Connecticut, right?
Time Warner.
What was the Mystic?
Is that the one in Connecticut?
Yep,
I think that's PBIS. I'm sorry.
okay.
That's it.
More in there. Okay, put it like that, so we can put it right there.
Thank you, Andrew.
You want explanation on that, or?
Well, no, if it was PBIS, that means it was a seminar, so that's. Is PBIS paid out of a grant?
Yes.
If you see an account number in a manifest that starts with 4, it's a grant.
Okay.
Or I mean, it's being charged to a grant.
Take it this one. SAU, check register, the bond anything?
Should say who needs to sign it on the back side, back page.
Looks like you finished your pencil.
Sure did.
Just a minute.
That's just you. This your thing?
That's the red ones are for all of us. You get this, or that? That's not that, that's
No, that's
the big packet.
yep.
Can I add that to the bottom of the
You
big
want
one,
it?
please?
Thank you.
that?
Is that the first one?
No,
The last one? That's the
Just
last one.
mortgage your house.
oh, it's not the last one, but it's not the first one either.
So does that have to go in order?
Got it?
Thank you.
I don't, no, those don't have to go on.
I think we just don't need to do that one.
Oh.
Where's the,
I thought everybody had signed that.
where's this one? Oh, there it is. Where? I signed.
Doesn't look like there's another red one there, does it? Right there. Do we have to strike that signature? I can't forge Norma's name here. They did a good job.
Good job. Did I really?
Just once. So far.
Eh? That's all.
This one was burned.
That one is already signed, you just need to sign,
Last one, right?
I believe you already signed that one, that's why I was trying to give it back to Mr. Tursi, but you need to sign that one too.
Thank you. Read.
Thank you.
Everybody's all set with the manifest, can I have a motion to approve, please?
Can we get motion?
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Minutes of the last meeting. Anybody have any corrections?
I do, Mr. Chair.
Go ahead, Mr. Tursi.
On page 5, under Common Core, let's see, where it starts, Mr. Tursi stated that once Massachusetts adopted the Common Core, I'd like to strike the word once. The word should state that Mr. Tursi stated that Massachusetts adopted the Common Core in 2010. State has been #1 in student achievement for several years. That's what that should read.
Mr. Brown,
Mr. Gregwell.
on page 1, and the third heading, public present, it should, second line should read Sandrea Talaferro, T-A, not T-R, as well as the same at the bottom. On the last heading, visitor and public comment, first line should read, Sandrea. It should say, it says Sandra, it should say Sandrea, and Talaferro, T-A, not T-R.
If not, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of April 16th, 2014,
As amended,
as amended?
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Public comment. Seeing none?
With non-public minutes as well.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Page 8.
Is there any reason why we can't approve the non-public now?
Just have one amendment.
Is it a Pell Grant?
Yeah, under consultants, the first sentence, say, as they're paid by grants, we don't receive Pell Grants. So strike the word Pell. That's all I have, Mr. Chair, on that.
Any reason why we can't approve these now? If not, can I have a motion to approve the non-public minutes of April 16th, 2014,
I'll make that motion.
As amended,
as amended?
I'll second Bonnie's motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Correspondence. Priscilla Colbath questions.
I would just change one thing, number 2, should be 40%, not 45%.
All right, but before we, begin, I just need to make it clear that there is no middleman as far as going out to getting questions. If the public has any questions of the board, they can contact us directly. Our contact information is on the SAU website. So, we need to really stick to that, to have the public contact the board directly. There is
You don't have a
no,
policy on that.
well, we just had a meeting with that last week with the New Hampshire School Boards Association. And their recommendation was that anonymous questions are not answered.
I'm asking the questions, so they're not anonymous.
Not from what I've seen.
Where I'm getting my questions,
No, there is, the board took no action to give anybody the authority to go out and be the middleman or the spokesman for the town.
I'm a private citizen, and people come to me, they want me to ask a question, there's no reason why I can't.
Anonymous questions are
It's
not
not
answered.
anonymous, this is my question.
Well, from now on, it's, I mean, this getting on the agenda is really trying to circumvent the policy as far as I'm concerned. And
It is the policy, because you won't allow me to ask questions at a meeting like we've done for years.
so,
And you told me this is the way I had to do it, and this is the way I'm complying with your rules.
so you are doing this to circumvent the policy,
I'm doing this because this is exactly how you told me to do it.
but you're now out on social media soliciting questions from other people when these people can contact the board directly.
Maybe they don't want to contact you directly.
Well, from now on, that's the way it needs to be handled.
Well, you won't know if the questions are for me or them.
Bonnie?
I guess in Mr. Brown's statement, I guess what as a board member, and I'm only speaking for myself personally, I understand that people may not feel comfortable coming directly to us because in the past there have been repercussions for comments and things like that. I guess I just want the people of the town of Wakefield to know that I welcome the phone call or the email or the text, and if I was to find out that anyone took action against a child or a parent or even an employee because of something that they shared with us, I would go to the board myself and say that we needed to take action against who brought the repercussions against that person. We need our townspeople to feel welcome and heard. And I want them to know that they can come to me. They may not feel comfortable talking to me, but they might feel comfortable talking to Norma or Bob or Steve or Ralph. You can come to one of us. You don't have to go to all of us, and we'll do the best we can.
They have that option now.
They do, but I guess I really just want them to know that I'm wholeheartedly encouraging. If they have questions or concerns, I don't want them to think that I respect the fact that you're doing what you're doing and you're opening up a chain of communication. I understand that. But I want them to know that I wholeheartedly want their questions and concerns asked directly. I don't want them to feel that they have to go through someone because they fear repercussion. That is not an element that I want even to exist in this building anymore. I don't want someone to be in fear that their child's going to be treated different in class, or a parent's, going to be not felt comfortable to come into the building once they speak to us. We don't want any of that, and our staff, I guess we think higher of our staff than that, and we want the people to know that they can contact us directly, although I respect that they're going to you if they're asking a question and they don't feel comfortable. I'm just saying that for myself, they can call anytime, if you need to meet for a cup of coffee or whatever. I'm always willing to do that. I don't want anyone to feel that they can't be heard, because that's not my personal goal as a board member at all. I need to make my judgments and my decisions based on what the people want. They're the ones that put me here. So I just want them to know that that's my point of view.
Fair enough? Yeah, that's fair enough, and I do hope they do contact you.
I hope they do as well.
I'm not going to stop asking questions.
I would not either.
It's not you, it's not just you, but it's my understanding that you requested to be on the agenda almost immediately after our last meeting with no agenda items.
Because Mr. Tercey told me I had to have actually it was a week later because you had a meeting in between. It's been 3 weeks since your last meeting because of the joint board. And I sent my questions in the day of the joint board meeting. Mr. Tercey told me I had to have it in the Wednesday before your meeting. That he meets with you Wednesday afternoon to set the agenda. So granted, I don't have all my questions, but I make sure that Mr. Tercey has my questions in time to put them in the packet. I'm complying with every rule and policy that you're,
But I would second Bonnie's thoughts that the public should be contacting, one or all of us.
I can't disagree with
individually.
that. I would love it to happen, but if I'm going to be there, if they want to go through me, I'm not going to stop them. But, they're my questions.
Did I hear something come out of the corner?
Are you answering these questions to them?
Yes. Mr.
I'll address them. If you'd like, Mr. Chair, just as I have in the past, I'll read the question and provide the answer.
Yeah.
The first question is, how many outside consultants do you have at Paul School, and what are their names and their functions? We are currently working with 3 consultants at Paul School. Donna Beauregard is one consultant. She's considered what's known as a data coach, and she works for the New Hampshire Department of Education. She focuses on working with teachers around student data and instruction, and she also focuses on literacy instruction. Kevin Perks is the other consultant. He works for West Ed. He specifically focuses on curriculum development and literacy instruction. And then the third consultant that works at the Paul School is Rob Lakuziak. He's an independent consultant. He's a math consultant that works specifically with grades 5 through 8 math instruction. Question number 2 is, does Paul School meet the 40% quota for free and reduced lunch to become a school-wide school. Paul School does not meet the criteria as a school-wide school. However, since it's designated as a focus school, we can apply to be a school-wide Title I school because of that designation. And that leads into the next question: are there plans in the works to make Paul School a school-wide school? The answer to that is yes. We're in the process of completing a preliminary application for a school-wide Title I school. Number 4, the question is it true that if you are not a Common Core school that Title I funds will not be awarded? This is not true. The adoption of Common Core does not impact our federal entitlements. The adoption, or not the adoption of the Common Core, I should say, does not impact federal entitlements. Which makes question number 5 not applicable, which is, if this is true, does the board know about it? Number 6 question is, what is West Ed and what do they do for the Paul School? West Ed is a consulting group that provides services in many different areas of education. We have one consultant, Kevin Perks, who works with us, as I stated earlier, at the Paul School for curriculum development and literacy. Question number 7 is, why is discipline so bad in the junior high? We have been providing reports to the board that's demonstrating that discipline's actually been improving, particularly since last year. So we are seeing improvements in our discipline, and that does include junior high and the entire school. Mr. Byrne, he provides his reports monthly.
Lauren?
I guess in a question like that, it's so open-ended because everybody's view of discipline is different. So I would encourage whoever asks that question, if you have a communication line open with them, ask them to be a little more specific about what they're speaking about, because
Well,
discipline.
I'll ask them to call you, Ronnie.
Hmm?
I'll ask them to call you.
Okay, because discipline is such a wide range,
I
and
agree.
it's hard for us to say why is it so bad when we're not quite sure what behavior they're speaking
I agree.
about.
I agree.
Well,
And that, number 7, it almost sounds like a complaint, as opposed to a question. So, of course, the town policy would be anonymous complaints aren't really taken with.
That's why I said I'll have them ask them.
Yeah, ask them to call one of us and just, go ahead, sorry, yeah.
Brown. I also want the community to know, please feel free to call me. I'll be happy to speak to any parent, meet with a parent, a community member. I'll come to Wakefield to meet with a parent, so please include me in the list of people to call. I would really much prefer that. Thank you.
Call me.
Or Mr. Gregoire, if there's a question specific about the school.
So,
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Number 8.
do we have one
Rate's
more?
not a question.
That's
Oh.
not a question.
All right. I have a couple of questions, myself on the answers of the questions.
Okay.
Are you going to provide the board information on school-wide school?
Yes, it's my understanding after past conversations that we would discuss any application for grants, and that would include going full Title I. We would provide that to the board.
What does school-wide school mean?
For Title I, you could have what's known as a targeted school, where you only provide Title I services for specific grade levels. Whereas a school-wide school means that you can utilize your Title I fundings and support services throughout the entire school. So targets specific populations of students by grade level, where Title I school-wide, you can utilize your Title I funding throughout the entire school, which provides us actually more flexibility in providing services for students that meet the criteria for Title I services.
So what does that mean for free and reduced lunch? What does that have to do in regards to free and reduced lunch? It goes by that quota to see if your Title I funding?
It's more than just free and reduced. It also is based on student achievement, where they fall. Title I students tend to be on the cusp of services, students with disabilities or Title I students. So free and reduced goes into the play as well as their academic achievements.
And you're gonna provide that information to us?
Yes, sir. As we move forward, I'll provide that information to the board and review it to make sure that you understand what it means to be a full school-wide Title I school.
With enough time that we can have ample time to look at that and
Yes, sir. We have a grant workshop, I believe, next week on the 13th. We can have that discussion at that point.
all right, and then my other question, is reviewing West Ed. I noticed that they are funded by over 400 organizations, and I would like to know where their funding is coming from. Because where their funding is coming from, I mean, they're going to do what the people are asking in return for the funding. So I'm looking, especially when there's over 400 organizations that fund them, I really would like to know where their funding's coming from.
So, may I ask a question on that?
Go ahead.
So is that something that you weren't able to find on their West Ed website? And that's something that you would like for me to research, their funding sources for this major consulting organization?
Yes, because they're no longer part of the Board of Education, so,
They do have a great website with all their sources of who their backers are.
no, they don't. Because I was just on it a little while, early this afternoon, and all it says is that they are funded by over 400 organizations, and I did not see a list of the 400 organizations.
Okay, so instead of giving that to Mr. Tercey, why don't you let me do it, because the board.
All right, if you can get that information to me, I would greatly appreciate it. You don't have to do it at the
Oh, I know.
moment, but I would like to see what their funding sources are. Because they do, they certainly, from their website, I'm certainly getting that there is a bias with West Ed. And whether that bias actually fits into the Paul School. All right, new business.
I do not have anything on the new business, Mr. Bell.
Administration, financial reports.
Any questions on the expense report?
Yes, line 51-220, Andrew, substitute, well, could also be Jerry substitute salaries.
51.
Ready to add the second line?
Yes. Are we having an issue with the substitutes? That's why we're short.
Not having an issue with subs, needing more subs. And
Yes.
it's kind of where we're at, yeah. And it's, I wouldn't say we're having an issue with substitutes, they certainly are here when we need them, but.
Well, I mean,
certainly
I guess,
need a
is it
fair
more of
bit.
a short-term thing, or is this gonna be a,
I would hope not. I would hope it would be consistent, year in, year out, but it's hard to kind of gauge that, when they have sick time or.
do we have any long-term?
We've had one long-term, we had that one in kindergarten.
But, so, I mean, I guess we're keeping an eye on
Yeah, I mean,
trying to keep
I haven't-
that in control if at all possible. Mr. Tercey?
That's a difficult line to predict, because obviously we can't predict if somebody's gonna go out for a long period of time because of an accident or health issues that were unexpected. So it's something very difficult to predict, and we do look at what we actually spent when we build the budget, and there are times that the line goes over because there's been unexpected absences with the substitutes.
Lauren?
Is it possible to maybe have Mr. Eldridge come to the next meeting? Because I'm looking at the transportation and it seems like we're over on everything. Am I reading that wrong? Page 8?
If it's in the negative, it means it's over. It's got brackets around it. So I'll talk to you about that.
Because it seems like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and some of them are over $10,000. So I don't know, have we not been reimbursed from Milton for that portion of his salary?
Right, that'll happen in either this month or next month. So that's part of why it's over, is because the billing to Milton hasn't been done, as well as the billing to Wakefield for the maintenance director.
I guess I look at it and, like, retirement, would that be part of the reimbursement too?
Yes, retirement, health insurance, dental.
And then bus repairs is over just simply because the buses needed more repairs than we could
Right.
budget.
But that
And
one,
and insurance has gone up $1,000.
We had a new bus, and it wasn't in the budget.
But what about when you take the other ones off? We took 2 off, right? If we take 2 off, why is there such a big difference? Shouldn't they kind of wash each other out?
No, because you're dealing with an old bus that has very little value versus a new bus
Oh,
that.
okay, I didn't consider that, okay. Could we maybe just, when do you do the billing for both of the,
It'll reflect on the the June.
okay, so on the June statement, this should be more
Yeah, I'll have-
clear and
I'll have
not
it billed
so.
out Before, the June meeting.
Okay, so then we may not have to have Mr. Eldridge here, I just didn't know, I guess I should have asked when
Well,
we were
what
gonna
I'll
do
do,
billing for Milton.
When I have the next month's expense report, I'll go over with some of there's any over budgets that get explanation.
That's wonderful, and then if we could just keep track of that for the next budgetary season, that would probably be beneficial too.
but, once again, I'm having a problem with the repair line. Once again, we're over budget. I just, I'm really having concern with that. I don't, with all the newer buses that we have, why are we overspending the repair line?
I thought part of the deal was if you're renting a bus or leasing a bus, there's free repairs up to a certain amount of mileage or something like that. Isn't that how the deal is set up?
Yeah, they are, they do carry a warranty like any other new vehicle, would, but I just, once again, I'm just having a real problem with repair line being over.
Could be, it could be tires that they put on right after the winter or during the winter.
And-
Or just recently.
And once again, hopefully we're getting the state bid on the tires.
We are. The other thing you have to keep in mind, too, we had a really rough winter. We had a lot of buses that had to be jump-started to get going in the morning, and the town garage couldn't do it because they didn't have the equipment.
But that's why they're plugged in, so we don't need that, so we won't have that problem.
Even plugged in, it was really cold and some cars just didn't start this year.
No.
I mean, we only repair the buses if they're necessary. They're not, you have no control over something goes wrong with a bus.
Fine.
On operations and maintenance, 53,200 and 56,100. Did we add a new contracted service that was $3,950 that wasn't in the budget?
What page, Brian?
Page 7, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6th line down,
3950.
3950.
I'll look into that. It might be a misallocation of the expense, but I'll see what, I'll look into that.
Okay, could you also look at operation and maintenance supplies? It's 484271 over.
What, can you read that 5-digit line?
Yes, sir, I
It
can.
helps to,
56,100.
thank you. Yeah, I got a question about that one myself. And the contracted.
If it's possible, it would be real helpful when the board gets these questions, if you know them before the meeting, if you email me, I can at least come to the meeting with the answers.
Oh, I can do that. Not a problem.
That would be real helpful.
I can do that.
Okay, thank you.
3 or 4 days in advance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Even a day in advance, as long as I have time to look into what it is.
Not a problem. I can do that.
Okay.
Page 4. Line 52,400. Professional development tuition. Why are we down 5,000?
We're over 5,000.
Oh, it's short 5,000.
Yeah.
Oh, short.
Excuse me.
So, Mr. Trish, you know, we're looking for an answer. I think CBA, it's a collective bargaining agreement, and it allowed so many credits per year. And so, again, that's another tough one to predict if people decide to take courses that we didn't anticipate. So you budget 16,000, but it's guaranteed in their collective bargaining agreement without a dollar amount.
12.
Excuse me?
12.
Budgeted.
I said, yes, but if there's no dollar amount in the CBA that limits them on how much money they can access. Anybody can access that who falls under collective bargaining agreement.
So does that basically mean that they can go to like any college they prefer, even if like the same class is offered cheaper at like Plymouth State, but they choose to go to Wheel Off? It's
Sure.
That's correct. They get us, basically, it's a certain amount of money based on that credit allotment at the UNH rate, I believe it's at.
Unit, yeah, the in-state tuition rate.
okay.
So if they choose to go to Maine, that significantly hires out of state, they still only get that amount, that allotment from UNH.
Okay.
The
So
UNH rate.
that's another one that's difficult to predict, like a substitute line. So what we budget for is based on what we've actually spent. We look at that the prior year. However, if we have teachers that are taking more college classes one year compared to others, it's very, again, difficult to predict. So that line might go over if we have more teachers taking more college courses than the year before.
Page 5, 57,300, library equipment. Anything that we,
$109.40.
something purchased,
I'd have to take a look at that, Mr. Brown, see what brought us over that.
Well, again, that's a budget line that's based on past history. If these, the cost of things go up, and if you don't know it, or something breaks down in the library that wasn't considered when the budget was being put together. You have to repair it or replace it.
Well, you do to a certain point, but we all have to live on a budget. So if each department is given a budget, you should have like a fallback. You know, if we all have to live on our budgets at home, we would expect that the departments here in the building were gonna be doing their best to live on their budgets as well, you know? So,
I agree with Mrs. Seer on that. When we look at when we're building a library equipment line, we look at what we've budgeted for, maintain that. That's something we'll do
and
vigilant
sometimes
at.
you have to sacrifice, and you don't get to necessarily get everything you want in one given year. Sometimes you have to sacrifice and wait a year.
What I normally do on that is, you know, if they're over on one line, then I tell them they have to be under on another line. And we keep the total library within budget. So if they overspend on, like in this case, they've overspent on equipment, but they're under on repairs and supplies, so it's kind of a wash.
But does that really give us a clear view of how we're supposed to budget the next year?
No.
If they do that, I understand where you're saying, but that really doesn't give us a clear view on how to budget the following year if they're switching lines around.
They're not switching line. I'm telling them to put the expense in the correct line, that's why you have $100 over there. So when we look at the budget next year in October, we could see how much we actually spent on.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. All right,
What I'm saying is if, you know, you could overspend one line as long as you underspend another line, not put it into the wrong account, because that's one thing I'm real careful about.
okay.
For that, your specific reason, because then when you do the budget, you're not looking at the actual
I
expense.
understand now. I didn't when I first said it. I apologize.
Any other questions?
Same page. 55,400, what? I'm not recalling that many ads and notices, but that was requested. Oh, I mean, apparently we did, but I don't,
Some of the additional notices that you might have asked for this year that you might not have past year with some of the public notices that went out into several papers.
and miscellaneous, 58,900 miscellaneous.
I couldn't tell you exactly what it is, but I think it's part of this mileage that's being paid to board members for going to more of the professional development classes. More people are going, so that's where we're going to charge to.
Page 6, 51,150. Principal office support.
Those are the extra days that was given to Tammy Badger.
Correct.
Wasn't that only 20?
It is, but that's, what, the 20 hours?
20 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what's reflected here in the,
It's the same as last month.
And that's 20 hours, that reflects 20 hours?
yeah, the increase that the board approved for her. I apologize, I don't recall if it was 20 hours, but we did approve that after this budget was
20 hours, and then was
adopted.
there another 5 needed somewhere too?
Could've been some
When you were
days
doing
in the summer.
inputting of emergency information or
When
something?
we first started out, you
Yeah.
needed that extra support at the start of the school year, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's been times during the year she worked more than her hours because there were people out at the school too, anyway. So it's a combination of the increased hours and having to cover.
Mm-hmm.
54,300. Principal repairs and maintenance.
I have to investigate that, Mr. Brown, to see what that overage is. I mean, again, that comes from repairs, and so I think that is why one is not easy to predict. You know, so I understand what Bonnie's saying regarding living within a budget, but the repair piece is sometimes a difficult one to expect, what we know what to expect.
As long as we're, trying to live within the budget.
Yes, sir.
56,100, principal supplies. Same thing, I mean, it's only $110, but it's still, trying to live within that budget.
Yeah.
You know, the supplies line is. Oh, wrong one, sorry.
Any other questions on the expense report? How about the revenue report?
Does everything come in before the end of our fiscal year?
Yes.
All of the grants and state education tax and school aid and catastrophic aid, that all comes in before the end of the year?
The only thing that we normally don't get in time is the federal funding for the child nutrition. So I know what those numbers are. I get it from the state, and I approve for them. So they're
Okay.
included in the 2013-14 expense, and then when it actually comes in, it's offset by the reversal of those entries.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Any other questions on any of the reports in the financial package?
Do it in our document. To get the information collected.
Okay.
Should we figure the numbers out first?
Shouldn't they be doing that?
Yeah, because it's hard to understand some of it.
How's that?
Everybody all set? Very good, thank you, Andrew.
No, that would be different.
SAU 64 enrollment.
Bringing it under old business.
You'll see in your packet that we've included this month's enrollment for pre-K through 12, as well as the missing residency form. So our current enrollment, pre-K through 12, it totals out to 601 students. And you also see in our missing residency forms, we have all but one residency form, and we have confirmed that the people live at the residence for the Spalding one that you see. Mr. Robinson is still struggling to actually get the paperwork from the people. However, we do know that they reside there because of the number of times that he's been out there and they've been home. So that's just a form that's missing. However, they are living in that home.
Very good job on the residency form this year.
Thank you. And I have other items, Mr. Brown, under 64.
Go ahead.
Just since we have all the board members here, I heard from a couple board members regarding the public forum and some times and days that will work. The request at the last meeting was to have a public forum to discuss report cards, high school options, and cafe services. Is that something the board still would like to do? And just maybe if we can nail down a day and a time and look at our calendars so we could get that rolling this evening.
Is it possible to forego the next Wednesday meeting and have the forum instead?
It's possible, I'm sure, there'd be, the manifest that would need to be taken care of, but
We can take care of that with a short meeting, either before or afterwards.
Yeah, I would think before.
other than, do it before, but I don't, unless there's other pressing issues that anybody feels cannot wait till the following meeting.
Well, we're gonna have to set the forum at a time that's appropriate for parents. I mean, it could be that we meet at 5 for our meeting, and then the forum can start at 6.
Well, that's fine, but,
And
I would,
policies can still meet at 4.
I'll go with my no Fridays, no second and fourth Mondays,
Yes, sir.
no May 8th.
Wednesday nights, other than Wakefield board meetings, I'm not available, because I'm Milton board meetings.
I have to truly state that this is my busy time of year. I can be available on Wednesdays from 4 o'clock to whatever time you need me, but any other day of the week, I can't be at any meetings any longer. Unless it's conveniently placed throughout the day and I can find someone to cover for me.
Well, we won't have Mr. Tercey with the public forum because,
If it would be our next board meeting,
I
Mr.
mean,
Tercey would
oh,
be
well,
there.
yeah, if we do it at
And then at that way, Andrew could be there, Mr. Gregor could be there, and the people that we want there can all be there.
Right. We could build the agenda, Mr. Brown, as a 5 o'clock meeting for regular board business, and then 6 o'clock as a public forum. And we could have our policy subcommittee still at 4, so you could do a 4, 5, and 6. And then we could start getting that word out now. I could put an alert now out to all the families, and we could post it, and can put it on the weekly newsletter.
Do we have the capability of putting that alert now out to the high school students' families
Yes.
as well?
I have that as a subgroup.
Okay.
Well, my only question would be that if we're basically just gonna do the manifest, I don't think we're gonna probably need a whole hour to do just the manifest.
Right, but you can't have parents, some parents can't make it for 5:30, so 6 is probably a better time.
I wasn't gonna suggest that, I was
Okay.
actually maybe should we move the policy meeting back to 4:30?
Sure.
Sure.
Could do 4:30 to 5:30, 4:30 to 5:30 as the policy subcommittee meeting, and then 5:30 to 6 as regular board business, and
Right.
6 o'clock public forum.
That's what I was gonna suggest.
And what were the topics again for that?
Cafe services, report cards, and high school options. However, also in my update and what I've provided to the board around high school options, we were informed by Governor Wentworth that they're not willing to take all of our high school students, because that would mean a 40% increase in their enrollment. However, they did state that they'd be willing to take the 20% based on our area agreement with Rochester if that was to increase. So they do have the space, however, they are concerned, from what I understand, they're concerned that the 40% increase would be substantial for them. So I don't know if high school options is really something that would be discussed at a public forum at this point, knowing what the response is from Governor Wentworth.
Well, go ahead.
Is there a chance that Governor Wentworth School Board might sit down or actually put our school board on their agenda so we could have the discussion with their school board? Is there a chance of that happening?
If this board requests, I could reach out to the superintendent.
I, as one school board member, would like that to happen, but I can't speak for everybody else.
I would kinda like that too, because it really, is it being suggested that 164 students represents 40% of their student population?
The projected enrollment for going to Governor Wentworth would be around 190 to 200 students when we look at the projected enrollment, which is a 40% increase for Kingswood.
I think it's still good to have the topic brought up, because if we have a majority of parents that want to go, and that means we really have to focus on what we need to do as a board, policy-wise, to set very clear standards and responsibilities to apply to go. If we only have 6 slots a year, or 4.3 slots a year, it may get competitive. So we really have to find out the information from the parents, because maybe the parents are gonna say, we really want you to push for that. Or maybe we're gonna find that we have a 50-50. So those are all things that we probably are gonna have to look into. I think that it's okay to ask those questions.
Okay.
And then based on the information that we're given parent forum night, based on the answers we have from the survey, maybe we'll get more response at the forum.
I'd just like to take an opportunity to talk to the school board over there, and I think I understand fairly well what the folks are asking me, or, the polling that we had done, it seems to me enthusiastic about heading towards Governor Wentworth Regional. There may be some folks at the school board over there that have never talked to anybody over here in Wakefield and don't know the degree of concerns, don't know. It doesn't seem as though that we're going to overpopulate those buildings. They're new buildings. They were built for a larger population. Their populations are shrinking, like a lot of school districts. So, I don't know, just...
You would think with the money that they've spent, they would be looking for additional revenue.
Maybe they're looking at other schools already to join them, like
Maybe.
they did Middleton. It could be that they have perspective out. I heard through the grapevine that Milton could be even in perspective, so there could be different things going on that we don't know about.
I'm speaking with the superintendent. She had mentioned that they're taking on Middleton. So with taking on Middleton, they're looking to see how that plays out before engaging in potential conversations with other districts.
So they don't even want to talk about it.
I didn't say that, Mr. Fogg. I
Well,
mentioned that from the superintendent, she mentioned that the board did not want to take on another large percentage of students from another district at this time. As for their willingness to speak with another board, that I don't know. We haven't asked that question.
We think it would be best to have the forum and then go with that
sure.
information.
Sure.
Because that's next week anyway.
So 6 p.m. for the
4:30, 5:30, and 6?
Yep.
Everybody good with 6 for that?
That's next week, you said?
Next,
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
The 21st. You can invite everybody right now.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, just, there will be a public parent forum on, what was that? The 21st?
May 21st.
May 21st at 6 PM. And it will be either in this room or in the multi-purpose room, I would imagine. All welcome, and we'd appreciate if all would attend. Thank you.
Couple more items, Mr. Brown.
Go ahead, Mr. Tercey.
At the joint board meet, our last, I should say, 2 joint board meetings ago, the topic of SAU withdrawal came up, and I mentioned that I'd bring that information back to the board as to whether the board can move forward with researching the potential, and yes, the board can move forward with looking into what the feasibility is for withdrawal from SAU 64. And that information can be used to develop the board's recommendation when it comes to the ballot in the spring for the withdrawal committee's recommendation, which was to not withdraw. So a board can develop the information and campaign for either way on a vote for the community. However, you cannot reestablish the withdrawal committee and to relook at the recommendation that was made at this point. It has to, their recommendation has to go on the ballot according to the RSA.
Well,
During that process, I sat as a witness to it seemed very, not really in depth as far as withdrawal committee happened. Some of the decisions were based on the knowledge that Milton had decided not to pursue withdrawal from that SAU. So I don't know if we should have done a little more in-depth work as a withdrawal committee. It just seems as though Wakefield made a decision based on the idea that Milton was no longer seeking to withdraw from the SAU.
and that is why I brought up on that committee that we needed to look into, in the committee, the committee agreed, okay, that would be, agreed that we should, although we weren't going, the committee was not gonna move forward, but that we should look into other opportunities. Other opportunities, options, which, if you go back to the expense report, and look at page 5, 53-110, and especially taking into consideration the last 2 joint board meetings, it's clear that Wakefield needs to take back local control, and that we can do this on our own for a lot less money than the $519,000 that we're giving Milton for SAUs. So, I would, Mr. Tercey.
So what I would need to know from the board is, that does the board want to pursue gathering information? In my opinion, you'd have to determine if, as a board, you are looking to, and I use the word campaign, one way or the other on the vote in the fall, I mean in the spring. So this is a board decision as to how you would move forward.
Well, I think that decision would be probably based on information gathered throughout the process.
And that's what I would, the board's requesting.
So maybe the board wouldn't do, but maybe down the road, after we actually look into it, then maybe the board would have a recommendation on a vote. Bonnie?
So are you saying at this point in time, the options that we have is that any of us can still privately, or as a board member, still weigh our options? Always have our options open, not knowing what Milton's thinking sometimes. It's always good to have our options open and look what's best for the taxpayers. But are you saying that when the election comes, we should campaign or put that we don't think that they should vote for it? Because if they vote against it, then it opens it back up automatically. Is that right?
I'm not saying that you should go campaign for it or against it. That's not my position to say. That's a decision the board has to make. You will put your recommendation for that warrant article, just like you do for any warrant article. So the board needs to decide, is it, 5-0 in favor of the withdrawal committee's recommendation? So you have to decide as a board as to how you want to pursue that specific warrant article, which are very similar to any of the other monetary warrant articles.
Okay.
So that, just Mr. Brown's point, is that's based on research, and if the board feels you want to research that, then, as I said, I'll provide the board any information that you request in regard to making an informed decision for your recommendation.
I would personally like to look at doing SAU services on our own and for Wakefield to take back local control. Because we can clearly, I honestly believe that we can do it for less money than what we're giving them. It's $519,000. And especially with the way you have a $134,000 contracted service that's not going out to bid, and apparently Milton's fine with that. I'm not fine with that. That's $134,000 of someone else's money. And it's not right, just as we discussed earlier, about the bidding requirements and getting three competitive bids. I truly have a problem, and apparently Milton doesn't. Just another, as the ongoing issues with, we pay a larger portion of the money, they get a weighted vote, they want all meetings in Milton.
I think that was taken care of, though, that issue.
But we need to take back local control, and I think we can do it for less money. Period.
So get our requests in early for you, for any information we need to get from our superintendent. You want to request that as quickly as possible.
Well, my suggestion would be to look at it going on our own, and what that would look like. Mr. Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify the process going forward, again, the withdrawal committee's recommendation will go on the warrant this coming spring, will go on the ballot this coming spring for the voters. If the voters vote no on the recommendation of the subcommittee to not withdraw, then you automatically, according to the RSA, form a planning committee, which brings a recommendation to the following spring's ballot.
Just as we've already done.
So you're looking at 2 years if you are looking to withdraw, again, based on on 2 votes that would have to happen. So it'd be this school year 16-17 for this to occur. And it states, again, within the RSA, the requirement to be an SAU, one of the main, I should say, the major requirement is that you provide superintendent services, not the position, but services. So I just want to make sure that the board's aware of that, and if the board wants me to put together the financial aspects of what that looks like, we would have to have a discussion as to what do you feel would be necessary to provide superintendent services. Small districts that are their own SAUs have full-time superintendents. Others have part-time superintendents. Others have full-time business administrators, part-time business administrators. So there's a variety of ways you could look at this. I would request that you're very clear in what you would like to see for superintendent services, and I could put those an estimate as to what that cost would be if you decide to move forward with researching that information.
And I think that would be good to start at some point, so that we are ready by you know, I would say at least a month prior to next March when it goes on the ballot.
I would say prior to budgetary discussions myself.
Well,
before
yeah,
the
that's,
budget season.
yeah, that would probably, that would actually probably be even better. So, if, so we need to, what are we, May, we got 4 months, basically, before budget, October, November, possibly 5 months, but I think we should, start looking into that. I don't know if, we can have a workshop on that, maybe, and discuss it further, and what that might look like, so then maybe Mr. Tercey can get us the relevant information. Andrew?
The withdrawal wouldn't affect the next budget cycle. It'll be the following year.
Well, right, but just, I think, say the sauce, but, I mean, just trying to, you know, make the budget committee aware of the actual vote coming next March. And if they have that information, that could either, you know,
I just want to clarify that it's not going to affect the
Right.
15-16 budget.
right, but I do believe, and I agree, it probably would be best to have it for the upcoming budget season to, it's either gonna show that it either can be done or it can't be done, or it's prudent or not prudent, come the, vote for March. So I do agree with Mr. Fogg, you know. Yes.
So would you like for me to move forward on gathering information at this point, or do you want to have it as an agenda item to have it, at least have a discussion about what you feel superintendent services would look like? Because that's really what we're discussing here. What's your superintendent services going to look like, and then you can put a cost analysis to that. Because the withdrawal committee did look into the feasibility for the educational impact of withdrawing. And what I'm hearing from the board is you'd like to look at a more detailed fiscal impact of withdrawal. Am I correct?
Well,
So that would be your starting point, what you've just stated? And then more requests, any other requests would be directed to Steve and he'd give them to you? Is that a good procedure, or is that, I mean, two of us might call you up an hour apart with the same request. So is it smart to have one central person providing you the request, or should we all just call you up whenever we can and give you a new request?
well,
I think it would be best if we sat in a workshop and discussed, the 5 of us together, what we were all thinking, and put it down on paper and then give it to Michael moving forward, because we all need to be on the same page. So I think it's more important that the 5 of us meet in a workshop, hash everything out, go over everything, and then if the 5 of us decide at that point in time that we all feel that it's time to move forward in looking at fiscal, what services we want, then the 5 of us can decide together at that point in time and move forward, and give Michael like just one clear directive, so it's not coming from 5 different people with 5 different ideas.
I agree.
so does,
That's consensus.
I'm available on Wednesdays.
because I really think it's too much time to just place it on the agenda of a regular meeting.
Well, maybe we meet more than once in June, or July, and August, and maybe get started on that.
Is your schedule for July and August still basically the same when you're not here, you're in Milton
Yes,
on
sir.
the, do they cut it back to, but we only have one meeting in July and August, do they do the same?
Yes.
So you might be available on one of those other Wednesdays?
Yes?
Do you think, July will give us enough time to maybe 3 months, gives us 3 months?
July 9th, is that our first meeting?
The second would be our first meeting, first Wednesday of July.
No?
It's not necessarily,
Mr. Brown?
yes.
If we could discuss this item on the agenda for our first meeting in June and establish a date in July as some of our schedules get a little more concrete for the summer.
Okay.
Sounds like a plan.
All right?
Thank you.
Just a couple more items on, I did want to let the board know that I attended a session at the New Hampshire Department of Education. It's around Accountability 3.0, it's being called, for the state waiver. I know it was a request from the board that I provide a report to the board if I attend a commissioner's meeting or a Southeastern superintendent meeting, whatever that might be, but more specifically if I'm going to a meeting with a commissioner and other superintendents, a written report. That was a request. This happened on Monday, so I wasn't able to put together a written report because the packet was already out, but I will provide one regarding that meeting for our next meeting. So I wanted the board to know that.
Can you give us a little something on Accountability 301?
Yeah, we're currently in a 2-year waiver as a state for No Child Left Behind, and in the fall of 2014, the state has to submit the states have an option to submit another waiver for another 2 years, or they can continue with the current waiver, or go back to the regular requirements of No Child Left Behind. Our state has decided to submit or is in the process of deciding to submit a second waiver in the fall of 2014. Within that waiver, there is conversations around more flexibility when it comes to the state assessment process. So that's they're designing options for state assessments for districts to apply into, opt into. So that's part of the new waiver. And again, I'll provide a report on that, but I also want to mention that one of the options that's not on the table is the local districts developing their own local assessment and utilizing that as replacement of the state assessment. That's not an option. The state assessments will always be part of whatever option districts decide to opt into. So that's the discussion that's happening right now around the state, from the State Department.
Well, I guess that leads into the next topic of discussion under old business. Do you have anything else?
Yeah, I just need to know from the board, do you need anything additional for the grant workshop other than what's already been provided? We provided all the grant applications and the assurances in the last packet. I'm assuming that's what you would like to have for that workshop, and just go through what our different entitlements are and what we're applying for and have that discussion. Is that the purpose of the workshop?
Well, and to find out really specifically where the money's going.
Coming from.
Well, right.
I'm more interested in where it's coming from.
Well, I'm interested in both, actually.
All the monies in the grants are coming from the federal government. All of them.
But they all have a purpose assigned with the grant, right?
Correct, and that's what each application has, a specific purpose.
That's-
So in those applications that we provided in your packet, as you read through there, you'll see the different areas that, you'll see the total amount allocated, and you'll see how the application breaks out that allocation to specific components.
And of course, the most important thing, the strings attached to each.
And those are the assurances that are in that packet, so it sounds you have the information you need to have that conversation.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And then I just want everyone to know that the tentative date for the Math in Focus Parent Forum is May 27th 6 to 7:30. That's tentative at this point.
What was that, May?
May 27th, 6 to 7:30 here at Paul. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Bob?
Under old business, I have 2 items. May I? Last meeting, I asked about community members going on our subcommittees. Have we checked into that?
Yes, for a board subcommittee, it has to be elected officials. The community can participate in the conversation, however, to actually be on the subcommittee are elected officials.
So they can sit into the subcommittees
Just like any public participation.
with comments?
With comments, yes. And that's the board can make that decision as to how many comments or so. But if you like for the public to speak freely in your subcommittee meetings, you can do that, or have specific people that come and speak consistently. You can do that as well, but to be part of the subcommittee, they have to be elected officials because it is board business. However, all your decisions that you make in the subcommittees are going to the full board for final approval.
Okay. And the other thing is, I asked Andrew today to send us over a list of what, for cafe services, what we actually have for a bunch of different things here. And he gave us that list, which we have to look over. But my question is, could you look into, Andrew, what would be the cost if we go on our own for other than cafe services for the next year? What it would cost, basically, us to go on our own?
You must have some of the past information, right, Andrew? From before, cafe services?
Well, we have 2 years ago, it all depends on how many people you're gonna bring in, the salaries.
Well, can we go off of what we were doing 2 years ago, a starting point of that?
Yeah, I could do that.
That information already exists, right? From what we were doing prior to cafe
Right.
services?
Yep.
And the money spent and, yep. Work for you, Bob?
That works.
The prior numbers prior to cafe services?
Yes, please. That's it.
Anything else, you want? Smarter balanced assessments. We once again have the major problem with smarter balanced assessments of data mining. I would like to see a waiver put in to waive the smarter balanced assessments. These data mining, it's too much. And I have a real problem with moving forward. Although that's not, the actual testing's not starting till next year, correct?
Spring of 2015.
But we're doing, what would the proper word for testing,
Pilot?
pilot, you could probably,
We're not
but
included in the pilot, are we?
We're not participating in the pilot for Smarter Balanced.
are there any assessments of Smarter Balance being performed prior to the spring of next year?
No, sir, not in our district. First time the students have access to Smarter Balance testing will be the spring of 2015.
And we're not doing any pilot testing prior to that whatsoever?
No, sir, the pilot actually has occurred already, and districts had to volunteer to sign into this. And Wakefield is not one of them.
Well, I would still like to see a waiver, request put in to get out of the smarter balanced assessment and to use another assessment.
Do you have an idea of what assessment you'd like to use?
Either the PSATs or the MCAS. I would be looking at, because I have a real problem with the data mining piece. Well,
What would Massachusetts do? Oh, just joking.
Mr. Tercey, has his hand up.
Michael,
I just want to make sure that the board is fully aware that, you know, prior to making a decision of putting a waiver in, is that the opting out of our state assessment will impact our federal funding. That's a given, it's been stated, it's a federal law and a state law that we participate in the statewide assessments, and it will impact our federal funding. It's been very clear that that is the case.
well, data mining, absolutely not.
Just want the board to know that.
I guess what I'm asking is, I know that other districts are asking for a waiver to be able to do a different assessment. I guess I'd like to find out, what is the financial, is it 1%, is it 100%? What's the percentage of the federal funding that would be pulled, or the state funding that would be pulled if we chose to ask for a waiver? And it's not like we're not gonna do an assessment, we're just doing a different assessment.
All of the other options that you're referring to, utilizing the SATs, PSATs, using performance assessments, those are all options that are going to be included in the new application for the waiver in the fall of 2014. However, throughout all of those options, students will still be required to take the state assessment, just not in all grades. Currently, the state assessment's administered in grades 3 through 8 and grade 11. The options that are being discussed right now you still would have to administer the statewide assessment in all three levels of education, meaning that you would have to have something in the intermediate grades, as well as in your middle school, as well as in your high school. So there would still be 3 grades that would have to be assessed on the state assessment. So the option to not do the state assessment is not on the table at all. That's
Well-
been very clear for us. So I just want to make sure people are aware of that, and that it will impact funding, and
Can you tell us how much it will impact funding?
that I don't know the specific amount, but it would usually be the full amount, because they allocate full amounts compared to if you
I guess the
opt out.
research I've done has said that it's like between 1% and 10%, and that's a lot different than 100%. I mean, if it's 2% funding that they're gonna reduce us by, that's something that might be doable. If it's 100%, then that might not be doable.
well, you know, I think it would be good to place this on the parent forum. Because I think parents really need to realize what their children are being subjected to. And I have a real issue, Virginia Berry can tell us that we have no option of that, but when it comes to data mining, as far as I'm concerned, we do. Because as far as I'm concerned, there will be no data mining in this building.
And I just want to make sure that the board is aware that it's legislature that is a requirement, it's a law. So it's not the Department of Education, it's state law. So if you're looking to change that legislature, that's a different story compared to something that the commissioners is requiring us to do.
Whether it's law or not, I'm having a real problem with data mining.
I understand, and I think the important part for the community to know is what that impact would be, and you're looking a little under $500,000.
And also the opportunities that the parents retain the right to opt their children out of the state assessments, and that the board needs to come up with an opt-out policy of the smarter balanced assessments, to get the word out to the parents, that the parents really need to opt their children out of the state assessment.
Well, they can choose to opt out. Some parents may not have a problem with the issues that you have a problem with. So
Right,
it's their
but-
choice as parents on what they would like to do.
But what I said was that the parents retain the right to opt their children out of the state assessment. And that message needs to clearly get out there so that the parents understand their right to opt their children out. Because the data mining, no. I don't care whether it's a state law, federal law, whatever it is, no data mining, period. So, and like I said, I think that it would be a good thing to add this topic to the parent forum to get the message out.
So would the board like for me to add that to the item of topics for that evening?
By consensus?
Yeah.
Well,
Which one was more information? Let's get the information out to the parents.
So on that question, Mr. Brown, what information are you looking for to get out to the parents? Because what I can provide is what I've been told, and reading state board minutes, what's been spoken by the chair of the state board, what we know as law. I can provide that information as to what the impact would be of opting out, and I could provide the community the information as to what we'd be looking at if we had to absorb or not absorb. That would be the board's decision as to whether you put it in the operating budget or not. As I said, the monies that would be lost as revenue. I can
Well-
provide that information.
But there's a lot more to the smarter balanced assessments than just fiscal. Data mining is a clear problem.
And we have state law as well, our RSA states specifically as to what we can provide for student information as a law, and nothing beyond that, which is name, gender, date of birth.
Well,
And we've already had our boards, we've already instructed our administration that if they see any example of that in any of the materials sent to the children,
it would be stopped.
that it was to be stopped immediately.
Correct.
Well, right. But the FERPA laws have also been tweaked because of this. So they have loosened the FERPA laws to allow for the data mining.
Maybe we need to develop a policy.
We need to develop an opt-out policy to make it clear that the parents retain that right to opt their children out of data mining. Because if anybody out there, look at some of the questions that they're asking in this. And it gets into what's going on in the home, who do you live with? Do you live with two mummies? Do you live with two, it's bad, it really is. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't care whether it is a state law, no data mining. No. But, and I would like to make sure that a part of that in that parent forum is specifically posed to the actual data mining within the smarter balanced assessments.
And the board can provide that information, Mr. Brown. I don't have information on data mining, and there isn't, in my opinion, any evidence that there is data mining, because we have a specific RSA that states what we provide as a state when it comes to student information. So if that's what, again, the board's facilitating this meeting, if you feel that you need to bring that information forward, feel free.
Well, the meeting, the two professional development committee meetings ago that I attended, it was the entire meeting that discussed the verbiage of data mining.
I know, we've all heard that.
Well, now the parents need to hear it. And, but the problem, that he doesn't know, hasn't heard of any data mining, and spent the whole meeting discussing the verbiage of data mining. And now we're being told that it hasn't been heard of before this.
It's not what I stated, Mr. Brown.
It's not?
No, sorry.
It was just not in his particular group. That doesn't mean, I don't know.
But
Maybe you need to speak with the people that you had in your group and ask them where that material came from. And maybe that would give you an avenue to find
Well-
out.
I was just hoping that maybe you'd be willing to provide at that forum a testimonial based on your professional experience, or would you be opposed to that?
Not opposed to it, however, all I can offer is my professional opinion because the Smarter Balance Assessment hasn't been taken, and the information around data mining is based on basically what people are feeling and opinions compared to evidence. And I'm going back on what the law is and what we are required as a state to provide and only provide on student data. So I don't see or anticipate the breaking of an RSA unless it changes for some reason. So I'm confident in our law and that people are going to follow the law. So I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you want to do the research to find any of the negative aspects around that, feel free, but I really don't want to, I'll be honest with you, to put together information on the negative aspects of an assessment when there isn't evidence based on that. So I'm just being honest with you.
Thank you.
so you're suggesting that there's no data mining involved?
There is no evidence in my opinion. And if that was the case, then it wouldn't have been adopted because it goes against our RSA as to what we provide for student data.
Okay, really not, but
That's fine.
I'll look into that. School board business.
I don't have
Nothing. Committee reports? Bonnie?
The Wellness Committee met last Wednesday. I just want to say that to invite everyone to the very creative and artful International Fair, which is next Wednesday night from 4:30 to 6:30 here at the Paul School. It should be quite an experience. Lots of great food, lots of great information, very inventive, and it's something that shouldn't be missed. It's a great town experience. And that's what the Wellness Committee discussed.
You wanna do facilities?
I could put some input in there. We had, at our facilities committee meeting, we received one bid on the tree and stump removal. And then citing the policy that we have, that we share with SAU 64 about the bidding process, I made a recommendation, or I made a motion to not recommend accepting the bid that we received. It was one bid. I think we need to have 3 competitive bids. So I was going to recommend to the full board that we repost the request for proposals, get 3 competitive bids, and comply with the policy.
The policy is great, but if we keep putting things out to bid on jobs that need to get done and we don't get 3, at what point in time do we say, we didn't get 3, we need the work done, we can't wait for 3 another time?
Well, I can see that, but what didn't happen is it didn't get posted in our local Carroll County Independent newspaper,
Where did it get posted?
in on the Foster's newspaper.
Oh.
And it went into, from what my understanding from the committee, subcommittee meeting was, it was in for 1 day, is that right? So, you know.
Oh, it needs to be, Foster's is a great paper, but I think our community paper is the Carroll County and the Independent.
Well,
We also talked about, they did 3 physical calls to 3 contractors for that. all of them seemed interested, other than they didn't put a bid in for them.
Oh.
So we asked them to touch bases with them again to see if they really want to put in a bid for this.
It's hard to make a decision when you're talking other people's money on one bid. Because you do have to factor, there is a lot of good timber over there, and that has value, and it just, I would agree.
Yeah, you really can't say that's a good bid or not,
Right.
without anything else to go by.
I mean, to me, it seems high. Especially if you factor in all the usable timber over there. Would you like to continue, Mr. Fogg, or do you need a respite?
Oh, respite, please. No, I was actually gonna ask to make a motion to reject the bid we received and put out another RFP, including the Carroll County Independent and the Fosters.
I'll second that.
Motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Now do you need a respite, or?
I'm resting.
All right, update on the modular units, it has been, cleaned twice and tested for air quality third time, and it has come back that, everything is okay, and they can move forward in putting it back together and getting that unit back online. And, we also gonna need to, the facilities committee voted to recommend, putting out the RFP for the roof, which,
We dealt with that with Bob when he was here.
that's correct, yep. So, and that's facilities. Bob?
We met last night with Cafe Services, and we are currently looking into some issues that we found that Cafe Services is going to look into within the next few weeks, we talked about, and they're going to get back to us by the third Wednesday,
They're gonna be on the agenda for the first week in June.
first week in June.
This weekend,
With the answers to the questions that we had.
What else?
One other item, Mr. Brown. The sale of the van, we still have not received any hits on it. We dropped the price and put it as best offer, and there still hasn't been any response on that at all. We even contacted the gentleman that originally put in the bid and haven't heard back.
Where is it? Like, is it on the side of the road with a sign on it?
Where is it, Andrew?
I believe it's at the town garage.
That is not a really good visible place. Put it right down on the corner by the SAU. With a big for sale sign on it. Someone will stop.
The van is not operational.
What do you mean it's not operational?
The engine's gone on it.
Why didn't you tell us that? If the engine's gone on it, it's not worth $4,000. We didn't know
I
that.
just found out that the engine was gone.
Well, then it's probably worth $800. Now, but that's information that we have to know. If we don't know that, we can't make good decisions. You can't ask full price for something that doesn't have that has a blown engine.
I wasn't aware the engine was blown until I
Today?
talked to Tim about it the other day.
Until after they took it out for a test drive.
Okay, so I think that,
Put it out front, put a free sign on it.
Now, what?
We have a salvage company that's willing to take it for $400 in Rochester. And we could try and contact the two bidders from the last, when the RFP was put out.
do they know the engine's blown?
I'm assuming they do, yeah.
They do now, but they didn't then, I'm sure. Because if you didn't know it, and we didn't know it, how are they gonna know it? No one That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that was 2 months ago.
Mm-hmm. It's been 2 months. So these are things that we need to be like the communication between transportation and you all needs to be so much clearer and more concise so that you can give us the right information. I never would have put forward to sell it at full price if I knew the engine was blown. And Tim must have known that there were issues with it. So that really just disheartens me that we've wasted 8 weeks. So I think you need to confirm that the engine's blown and that it's not something ridiculous without going crazy on it. Confirm what the issue is. Is it a cracked head? What's the mechanical issue? What would it cost to fix so that it's sellable? And we're gonna have to figure it out if it's worth fixing it to sell it or to scrap it.
Right. It's my understanding as well that it was operating. So I learned of that today.
But do we want to do that without any additional cost?
Yeah.
I think we can probably
Well,
get that information without paying someone to.
Well, I don't want it brought to DePricio's. I mean, if
Right.
someone has to have the mechanical know-how to say, this is what's wrong.
But the information should already exist,
I would think so.
so that we're not paying someone additionally
No.
to give us
It,
the
and
information.
I'm really disappointed that we didn't have that information before and it's been 8 weeks.
You all set? Public comment. So,
Mr. Tracy said in order to be a member of the public that sits on a subcommittee, you have to be an elected official. I just wondered how Joe and Bob could sit on the committee and make motions.
I was actually thinking the same thing. Employees of the district.
they don't make motion and I'll have to speak to them. It's the only ones that make motions and vote on the facilities committee are members of the board.
So-
Joe and Bob, they do kind of.
But they're employees, so they.
But they are employees.
Okay, thank you.
And they're presenting information to the board.
Is that it? Mary?
Just going back to get the waiver for the smarter balance. I know it's a law that the state has to take the state test, but does it have to be smarter balance or can it be another state test?
The answer to that is?
Please.
It's the assessment that the state adopts as their state assessment, which is smarter balanced.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to go into non-public under RSA 91A32, B and C,
I'll make that motion.
personnel and nomination?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor?
Fog eye.
I'll let I.
Zero.
Joy, I.
Brown, yes. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.